Title of this video is Kung Fu versus Karate. This video once again is for educational purposes, to get people to kind of analyze and think about these labels and what they represent, and our perspective on it. So the way that I see it, when you say Kung Fu versus Karate, it's almost like asking, and you say which one's better, it's almost like asking what's better, a Chinese person or a Japanese person, or what's better, a white person or a black person. That's something that you can't really compare. That's not something, it's incomparable. It's not something that you should be judging and labeling as such. People are people, and people are different. Chinese person and a Japanese person are different. They choose to be different because they have labeled themselves different or as different. China and Japan are different countries. To say which one is better than the other is all a subjective thing. It's not an end-all be-all type of matter. So there is no such thing as what is better. It's just more about knowing what the difference is. So Kung Fu is a Chinese expression. If you talk about the martial arts, then it can be a Chinese expression of the martial arts. Karate is a Japanese expression of the martial arts. So what is better is more according to what you are naturally drawn towards. So a Chinese person is essentially supposed to be representing the Kung Fu if he teaches the martial arts. And the Japanese person is supposed to be representing the karate if he's teaching the Japanese martial arts. So what you have to do is get to know the person who is teaching and then assess accordingly. So it's a Japanese expression of the martial arts, he might call it karate, and then a Chinese expression of the martial arts, he might call it Kung Fu. If you're gonna compare people, then I say that it is more proper to compare individuals rather than groups of people. So you say who's better, Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris in martial arts? Who's better? You could say who's better, Bruce Lee or Jet Li. Bruce Lee could be representing Kung Fu, his expression of it. Jet Li's representing his expression of Kung Fu. And then you could assess who you think is better. Now, Tony Jaa is, he represents Thai boxing. He's Thai and he's representing the Thai culture. So you could say, what's better, Bruce Lee or Tony Jaa? Bruce Lee is practicing his Kung Fu. He's Chinese background. Tony Jaa is practicing his martial art with a Thai background. And then you could assess who is better. Who is better, Bruce Lee or Floyd Mayweather Jr.? Floyd Mayweather Jr. is a master in boxing. Bruce Lee is a master of his Kung Fu. You could assess who's better according to your judgment. Who's better, Bruce Lee's Kung Fu or Donnie Yen's expression of Kung Fu? They're both Chinese people, and then you could assess accordingly. So when you have someone like Steven Seagal, who's not Japanese himself, but he might claim that he practiced the Japanese martial art of Aikido, but he's a practitioner of Aikido, but he's not Japanese. Is he a master of Aikido? In my opinion, no, he's not. He's just maybe either a practitioner of Aikido or maybe a former practitioner of Aikido, and he's a spokesperson, potentially a spokesperson for that art, but whoever created that art, did he get the permission from the creator to represent that art? If he didn't, then he shouldn't be claiming Aikido. but he's become famous worldwide for the expression of the Aikido techniques. So then you could assess, is Steven Seagal better or Bruce Lee better? Bruce Lee is representing the Chinese culture, the Chinese people, or the Chinese American culture, the Chinese American people, and he's expressing the martial arts, and you could assess. But to say, hey, is Kung Fu better than karate? That's like saying, is the Chinese martial art, are the Chinese people who express the martial arts, are they better than the Japanese people who express martial arts? That in itself, I feel, is an inaccurate comparison. It's more about preference. So it's like asking, what's better, Chinese food or Japanese food? That is not something that can be compared and become truth for everyone, because it's a matter of preference. It's just food, and people have their own likes and dislikes. But when you have something like athletics, where it's more clearly able to compare, who is better than whom. So you say, hey, is Michael Jordan better than Scottie Pippen? Well, most people say yes. He was much better. Is Michael Jordan better than Dennis Rodman? Is Michael Jordan better than John Paxson? Is Michael Jordan better than, Anthony Hardaway? I mean, you could compare, and then you could use statistics. You could use awards and trophies and all these accomplishments that they have done in order to make those comparisons. On a larger scale, you might be able to compare, well, the Chicago Bulls better than the Lakers. But then you could also ask, well, which era are you talking about? Are you talking about currently, right now in the NBA? Are you talking about last year? Are you talking about 5 years ago? Are you talking about when Kobe Bryant was still there? Are you talking about when Shaquille O'Neal was still there? Are you talking about when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was still there? Like, which period are you talking about? And that's what I mean, is that when you start to compare groups of people, it's much more dynamic than just something that's just so definitive and supposedly supposed to hold truth for a vast majority of the people. It doesn't work that way. So in order to determine whether or not Kung Fu is better than karate, you really have to get deep into the Chinese culture and into the Chinese martial arts and their way of life, and study it to see if their ways appeal to you, opposed to the Japanese ways. If you lived in Japan for 20 years, or say 10 years, and you get to know their culture, you get to know their people, you get to know their way of life, you get to practice their martial arts, and then you put the same effort of 10 years into the Chinese martial arts, and you're in their country, you're living there, you're getting to know the people, you're practicing the martial arts expression there, then you might have your own judgment of which art that you feel is better for you. So there is really no proper way to compare those two. As I stated, it's like comparing, like, what's better, Mexican people or Puerto Rican people. I mean, what kind of question is that? Neither is better. What's better, black people or white people? Neither is better. But if you're gonna compare things, you'd rather compare individuals. Who's better, Bob Marley or Michael Jackson? Who's better, Drake or Meek Mills? Who's better, Tupac or Biggie? I mean, compare individuals, but don't compare groups of people, because it's, in my eyes, is ignorant, and it's it could be offensive. You know, who's better, Vietnamese people or Thai people? There's no such thing as better. There's just understanding the differences between the Thai culture and the Vietnamese culture, understanding the differences between the Chinese martial arts and the Japanese martial arts, understand the differences, and basically train in what what draws you in. You know, there is no such thing as better or worse. Just like the food, what's better, Italian food or Indian food? Well, that's a matter of preference. There is no better or worse. This is not sports. This is not competition. This is art. This is culture. This is a way of life. And there is no such thing as better or worse. You know, and that's pretty much what I want people to think about when they make these sort of comparisons. You know, and there's a lot of nonsense going on out there. You know, people making videos saying, oh, you know, Kung Fu versus karate. And then the thumbnail is showing like two white people. You know, like they're not, who's representing Kung Fu, who's representing karate? There's no Chinese person in the thumbnail. There's no Japanese person in the thumbnail, but yet they're still saying Kung Fu versus karate. Why don't they just say, you know, A versus B? You know, like, you know, John Jones versus Conor McGregor. Okay, that makes more sense. You know, it's just, you're just labeling people by their name, and you're saying that they're going against each other. But to say, hey, you know, Kung Fu versus karate, or karate versus taekwondo, like, to me, it doesn't work that way. You know, because who can claim an entire expression of an art? Who has the right to do that? Like, who gave the right for somebody to claim that, you know, he's representing Kung Fu, that this person's representing karate, this person's representing jiu-jitsu, especially when these people are not even originally from those countries. You know, that doesn't make sense. You know, a Brazilian person representing jiu-jitsu, a Filipino person representing Kung Fu, like a Thai person representing, you know, taekwondo. I mean, that's not even where he's originally from, so how could he represent that? You know, so in order to make this even, to make any sense of this, it just makes sense to pretty much put people in the categories of which they belong. You know, if your roots go back to China, then you're representing China. If your roots go back to Korea, then you're representing Korea. Your roots go back to Japan, you're representing Japan. Your roots go back to America, you're representing America. So if you're born in America, you're an American. You know, you're not all of a sudden Chinese just because you visited China for a couple weeks. You know, you're not just all of a sudden Mexican because you visited Mexico for a month. It's like, depending on where your roots go or where your roots are from, is they're gonna be determining what you're representing. So within the martial arts, I feel that these labels need to properly represent the roots of the practitioners. That, I feel, is necessary in order to diminish the confusion and to promote a greater understanding and discourage corruption and deception. I see that there's a lot of deception out there, a lot of false, a lot of corruption. And these are some things that I think people should think about. It's appealing. It's very appealing for people to be like, hey, let's watch a kung fu master fight against a karate master and see who wins. Let's see which one's better, which style is better. It's appealing for entertainment purposes, but there's no reality behind that. There isn't. There really isn't. There's just individuals and who they are, what they practice, and then watching their expression and what they do. It's something to me. It makes more sense when you got one boxer against another boxer. They're practicing the same sport, and then you're trying to compare which boxer's better. Who's better, Floyd Mayweather Jr. or Manny Pacquiao? Who's better, Wilder or Anthony Joshua? Who's better, Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali? Like, you're making comparisons with people, with individuals, based on a sport of which they have all agreed to abide by these certain rules. Those comparisons make sense because they're all practicing the same sport, but yet they all have individual expressions within that sport. But you're not saying, which boxer's better, the black boxer or the white boxer? Which boxer's better, the Korean boxer or the Chinese boxer? You're not going to say those types of things because you know that that's not proper. You know better than that. And in the martial arts, there are no rules. There are no regulations. It's an artistic expression, so it cannot be confined within these limitations of sport. And you cannot properly make these types of judgments between people in the way that people are trying to do. So these are things that I feel that people need to think about, and analyze, and which to help them gain a better understanding of culture, of people, of the martial arts, and hopefully diminish the corruption that we have out there.